There is a stone lying flat at the center of Stonehenge. 6 tons. Pale green. Most tourists step right over it on their way to photograph the bigger ones. It has been there for 4,500 years. And until 2 years ago, nobody knew where it came from. It's called the altar stone. And in June 2026, scientists confirmed something about it that made archaeologists rethink everything they thought they knew about the people who built Stonehenge. This stone isn't from anywhere near Stonehenge. It's not even from Wales, which was already considered impressive since that's 240 kilometers away. This stone came from northeast Scotland. That's roughly 750 kilometers from where it's sitting right now, and nobody can fully explain how it got there. For decades, everyone assumed this stone came from the Preseli Hills in Wales. That was already a big deal. Moving multi-ton stones over 200 kilometers with nothing but ropes and manpower 5,000 years ago sounded borderline impossible. So when researchers in 2024 ran a mineral analysis on tiny grains inside the altar stone, basically a geological fingerprint, using zircon, apatite, and rutile crystals, they expected it to confirm Wales. It didn't. The fingerprint matched a totally different place. The Arcadian Basin, way up in northeast Scotland. Every textbook, every museum plaque, every assumption about this stone for 100 years wrong. Then in June 2026, a second study tried to find an easier explanation. Maybe glaciers carried the stone south during the Ice Age, and people just found it lying somewhere convenient. So they ran ice sheet models to test it. The model said no. There's no glacial route that gets a stone from northeast Scotland down to Salisbury Plain. The ice never moved that way, which leaves one explanation. People did this on purpose. Here's what actually gets me. It's not even the distance. It's the question nobody can answer. Why Scotland? The people who built Stonehenge lived in southern England. They had stone right there. The giant upright sarcens everybody pictures when they think of Stonehenge came from a quarry just 25 kilometers away. 25. They had everything they needed locally. And then they went and got one specific rock from the furthest possible corner of Britain. Not the nearest part of Scotland. The far northeast tip. The actual opposite end of the island from where they were building. Why would anyone do that? Nobody knows. Some researchers think the stone might have already meant something. Maybe it was part of an older monument up in Scotland, and bringing it south was a way of physically connecting two sacred places. Some think it's about the color. The stone is pale green, completely different from the gray sarcens around it, and in a culture that left us no writing, color, and material might have carried meaning we have zero way of recovering now. Or maybe it's just simpler and more human than any of those theories. Maybe someone with enough authority looked at this rock somewhere in Scotland and decided, that one belongs at the center. And a few hundred people spent years of their lives hauling 6 tons of sandstone across rivers, mountains, and open sea because someone told them to. Think about what that actually required. No wheels, no metal tools, no written language to plan it out. Most likely they moved it part of the way over land. Log rollers, ropes, probably 100 people just to inch it forward, and then loaded it onto some kind of boat for the sea route down the coast. There is one theory that softens this slightly. Glaciers might have carried the stone part way, dropping it somewhere near Dogger Bank, a stretch of land in the North Sea that was dry ground back then. If that's true, people wouldn't have had to move it the full 750 kilometers themselves, just from Dogger Bank onward, still by boat, still organized. Still planned by people who had to know, in detail, what was happening hundreds of kilometers away. That is the part that should actually change how we think about them. We picture Neolithic people as simple. Small communities, basic tools, no real concept of the wider world. But moving this stone means someone in southern England knew a specific rock existed on the other end of Britain. Knew it was worth getting. Had the ability to organize people across that distance and get it done. That's not a primitive operation. That's long-range coordination on a scale most modern institutions would struggle with, and they were doing it without GPS, trucks, or phones. Nobody knew where this stone came from until 2 years ago, and even now that we know where, we still don't know why. The stone has been lying flat at the center of Stonehenge for 4,500 years. Every Roman soldier, every medieval pilgrim, every tourist with a camera has walked past it without knowing its story. Now you know where it came from. Nobody knows why it's there.